top of the Kedusha Sayam have Shabbos, but like Korab Zelzeh, they have nothing to do with each other. It could be that Beisilal are of the opinion that it's a one, there's a Kedusha Shabbos, there's a Kedusha Yontif, there's a Kedusha Rosh Chodesh, and when it's Rosh Chodesh, Shechalias b'Shabbos, it's a new animal. It's a new Kedusha Sayam. When that Yontif Shechalias b'Shabbos, it's a new Kedusha. Yontif Shabbos hyphenated. What's the difference to Medrei Tahin to Medrei Taher? So Rav Soloveitchik said that in the regular Siddur, in the regular Machzah, you have that when Yontif is Chalias b'Shabbos, in the concluding paragraph say B'Hasi Ein Hashem Lakeinu is because man. And then it has in parentheses Lakeinu, Lakeinu Seinu, it's say B'Mnucha Seinu. They only add that if it's Yontif Zechalias b'Shabbos. What is that all about? Why are you adding that? So he explained that's according to that opinion that really you should have said like Beis Shammai. Really should have said two different brachas for the Kedushas Hayom. V'Hasiyenu is the bracha for Yontif. Lakeinu Kevaseinu Tzei B'Nuchaseinu is the nusach for Shabbos. But we're combining them together. We're blending them together because we can't have a tefillah with 8 units. So we start both. We start V'Hasiyenu and we start the Lakeinu Kevaseinu. And then at the end, we combine it together. Mikadosh Shabbos we saw b'hazman. But the Nusach Hagra is that even when it's Chalias b'Shabbos, you also don't say Elokeinu Elokeinu. You say B'tzei B'Nuchaseinu, but you don't say Elokeinu Elokeinu. Why? Because the Gra's Nusach was on the assumption that when you have Yontif Shechalias b'Shabbos, the two Kedushas blend in to be one hyphenated Kedushas Hayom. You don't have to demonstrate that you really would have liked to have said both V'Hasienu and Elokeinu Elokeinu, but your hands are tied and you have no choice. So at least you begin both, but you end together. No, it's a different nusach, and you don't have to say Elokeinu Elokeinu as if you're introducing another paragraph. So Rav Soloveitchik davened the nusach Hagra in Volozhin. His family was from Volozhin Yeshiva. They always davened nusach Hagra. So they didn't say Elokeinu Elokeinu even when Yontif is Chalias b'Shabbos. They say B'tzei B'Nuchaseinu. That you add because Shabbos is more menucha than Yontif. Even Echal Nefesh is also. But they wouldn't say Elokeinu Elokeinu. So he was very upset why Professor Birnbaum from the Jewish Theological Seminary put out a machzer, and he decided to change the nusach for all of Klal Yisrael. So because Rabbi Yankov Emden lived in Hamburg, and Nusach Hamburg is that you always say Elokeinu Elokeinu, even Yontif Shechalias b'Chol. So Professor Birnbaum decided that that's the more correct Nusach. He writes in the introduction to his machzer that he decided, he was the Posek Achron, so Rav Soloveitchik thought it was a big chutzpah. He decided for all of Klal Yisrael that that's the more correct Nusach, the different Nuschos all the way. And Rabbi Soloveitchik's practice was he wouldn't say that line, Elokeinu Elokeinu, even Yontif Shechalias b'Shabbos, let alone Yontif Shechalias b'Chol. He was very upset about that. On Yontif, there is a din of Simcha. Shabbos, there's no Chi of Simcha. Yontif, there is a din of Simcha. Therefore, the din is that if one is Rachmana litzlan in the middle of Shiva, so Yontif cancels the Shiva. One's in the middle of Shloshim, so Yontif cancels the Shloshim. So it's a din in the Gemara. It's quoted in Shulchan Aruch. No debate, no dispute. Shulchan Aruch, everybody agrees to this. They're just quoting the Gemara. Let's say when it comes Friday afternoon, someone's in the middle of Shiva. Let's say the Kvura took place Friday morning, or Thursday, or Wednesday, whatever. So if it's in the middle of Shiva, Yontif cancels Shiva. That Yontif Shavuos, even though it's only one day Yontif, Minator, it's only there, so it's only one day Yontif. The Yontif counts as 7 days. Then Yontif Shenish Goliath counts as another day. So you have 7 and 7 and 1, you have 15. So after Yontif is over, the person only has to observe another 15 days to complete the Shloshim, and that will end this year on Sunday morning, June 14th. That's Chav Beis Sivan. And then the morning, Sunday morning, June 14th, we will say Miktzas Hayom Kekulai, and that'll be the end of the Shloshim. I remember years ago they were organizing that people should make a Siyama Mishnayis for someone's Shloshim. So one of the Chachamim who thought that he was very learned, when he was getting everybody to sign up, so he wrote, but you have to finish by June 14th in the morning because the Shloshim is going to be over then. You don't have 30 days since the person died. Let's say the person died, the burial was on Erev Shavuos in the morning. So the Shiva is canceled, and Yontif counts as 7, and Yontif Sheni is another day, but it's not 30 days since he died. So this Chacham wrote on the sheet that they were encouraging people to sign up to learn Mishnayos. You have to finish by June 14th. That's when the Shloshim is up. So that's not correct. The Shach writes in Yeridea, where the Nifter is, there's no Shloshim. There's no Avelus. There's no Niyog Avelus. So there's no din that Yontav cancel Shloshim over there. So learning Mishnayos is chus for the Nifter. Let's say reciting Kaddish is chus for the Nifter. So what Nifter is, there's no Yontav canceling any Shloshim. So they write, let's say you have 2 people in shul, and one person wants the 2 want to daven for an Amid. One is in the middle of Shloshim, one is in the middle of Yud Beis Chodesh. So the Shloshim has Kedima. So he has the Kedima past June 14th in the morning. That's when the Nihug Avelus of Shloshim ends. But he has the Kedima till 30 days are up, because where the Nifter is, there's no Yontav to cancel anything. That's been neged to the reciting of Kaddish, and it's neged to the learning of Mishnayos and so on. But the din is with respect to the Avelus, the Yontav cancels the Shiva, Yontav cancels Shloshim. The Netziv has a famous tshuva in the Meshiv Davar, where he has a shaila, a woman bench licht on Erev Yontav, and after she bench licht early. More correct is there are different practices. Some have the practice to bench licht when the husband comes home from shul on Yontav. So Leitchik's family followed that the other opinion that more correct is to bench licht mebod yom. Bitzel Peterburger, Yitzchak Blaza, who was the rabbi in St. Petersburg for many years, has a tshuva, a very strong tshuva in his sefer Pri Yitzchak. He was he was from the 3 most outstanding students of Rabbi Yisrael Salanta. He was the most outstanding in learning. He was the strongest in learning. He was the one who was mefarsem Rabbi Yisrael Salanta Shita about Musa. He wrote Svarim Or Yisrael, other Svarim about Musa. But he was a great goyen in learning. So he also has a strong tshuva that more correct is that it does just like on Erev Shabbos. He bench licht before Shabbos enters because it's a malacha. You can't light candles on Shabbos, even though on Yontiv there's no issue of malacha because it's considered tzarech nefesh. You want to see what the food that you're eating, or tzarech hayom tzas, whatever it is. But still, more correct is to light on Erev Yontiv before Shkia, because there's the Rambam writes, there's a din of kibbutz and oinik, and kibbutz means, the Vilna Gaon writes, kibbutz means the hachonas that are done in advance of Yontif, and oinik means the fact that I enjoy the pleasure of the house being lit up on Yontif. That's the oinik. So the kibbutz is to light the candles on Erev Yontif. So then Netziv has the shayla, the woman bench licht half an hour before. So Leitchik said that where he came from in Europe, the meaning was that they used to bench licht every Erev Shabbos, every Erev Yontiv, 30 minutes before the Shkia, and an Erev Yom Kippur, that would be Moshe Mechol Al HaKodesh, that would bench licht 60 minutes before. He didn't understand why. Why did, as a child, he asked, why is it twice as long? Why is 60 minutes? So the official answer that they gave was 30 minutes Tosef is for Malach, and 30 minutes Tosef is for the Chamisha Inuyim. So he said he didn't understand what that means. It's one Kedushas Hayom, that's Mechayim in both. What do you need 30 minutes for this? But he said that was the meaning. They would be Mosef, they would bench licht 30 minutes before the Shkia. There is such an opinion. Rabbeinu Peretz says that Taisus and Beitza, Daf Lamed Amud Aleph points out, you see from the Gemara, that there's a minimum amount of time that you're supposed to be Mosef Mechol Al HaKodesh, but Taisus says they can't figure out what that amount of time is. The Gemara is clear that it's some significant amount of time, not just a half a second before the Shkia. So the Rabbeinu Peretz says 30 minutes because Samach is always 30 minutes before Samach LaMincha G'dala, Samach LaMincha K'tana. So the Rabbeinu Peretz thinks, and Achronim quote this Rabbeinu Peretz, that the more correct is to be Mekabel Tosefes Shabbos 30 minutes before the Shkia. Mekabel Tosefes Shabbos 30 minutes before, you have to daven Mincha, you have to finish Mincha before 30 minutes before. You're not supposed to daven Tfilah Schol after you're ready when Mekabel Shabbos. So the Netziv has a shayla, a woman bench licht Erev Yontif, and after she benches licht, she gets a telegram that one of her parents died. So she quickly takes off her shoes to be noig avelos b'miktzas, avelos aser b'nilos hasandal, and then Yontif came. She took off her shoes before the Shkia. The Yontif came. So is that correct? The Yontif comes and cancels the Shiva, and she only has to observe Shloshim till June 14th in the morning? Or do you say, no, she already accepted Yontif. If she would read the telegram on Yontif, it doesn't help if she takes off her shoes. You have to have already observed Mikzas Havelis before Yontif comes. So since she was Mekabel Yontif already, maybe there's already the mitzvah of Simcha, and you can't observe Havelis on Yontif, so she has to observe the whole Shiva. The Shiva begins after Yontif. Yontif Sheni counts as the first day of Shiva, then you observe another 6 days. So the Nitziv discussed this in light of the Gemara in Brachas on Daf Chava, where the Gemara says Rav had the practice. Rav would be Rav Tzadish al Shabbos, Be'erev Shabbos. He would daven Ma'ariv early. On Friday afternoon, he would daven Ma'ariv after Plaga Mincha. He followed Reb Yuda's opinion. And that's the common practice today in a lot of communities. In the summertime, when the sun sets so late, you don't want to start eating at 10 o'clock at night. So they daven early in a lot of shuls after Plaga Mincha. So the Gemara has a suffix. Rav would daven Ma'ariv early. Rav Tzadish Shabbos Be'erev Shabbos. Is that only been a get to Malacha? Is Mosif Mechol Al HaKodesh? Can he recite Kiddush also? Does the din of Mosif and Mechol Al HaKodesh only apply to Malacha and Dabri Ma'ariv? That's all, or does it even apply Tosefes Shabbos? Applies with respect to other mitzvahs hayom, namely Kiddush. Gemara comes to the conclusion, yes, you can say Kiddush also. So the simple pshat in the Maskana was that you shouldn't think that Tosefes, Mosif, and Mechol Al HaKodesh is only relevant for Malacha. It's relevant for all the mitzvahs hayom. But other Rishonim hold beferish not so, that's not the pshat. The Gemara just said that Kiddush and Malacha are connected. Zach v'shama b'di berechad nemru, we treat Zach v'shama like a heker. So Shama means Shmira Shabbos means not to do Malacha, and Zacha means to recite Kiddush. So the Kiddush is that the Shvisa and Malacha should be a Shvisa Hanikeres. There are a lot of people who are retired, they don't lift a finger all week long. They don't cook, they don't bake, they don't do their laundry, they don't do any malachas, they don't vacuum the rug, they have other people doing everything for them. So the Rambam explains you have to have a shvisa hanikeres. When it comes Shabbos, you have to abstain from malacha in a noticeable fashion. So could well be, that seems to be the Rabbeinu Tamshit, it could well be that there's a special connection between Kiddush and Isa Malacha. The Kiddush is like a bichas ha-mitzvah over the Isa Malacha. You want to fulfill a mitzvah of abstaining from Malacha. So you say Kiddush to say, I'm abstaining from Malacha because it's a holy day. It's also about Siyas Malacha. So it could be that even though the Gemara came to the Maskana, if you Makabel Shabbos early, you can recite Kiddush also early before the sun sets. Maybe it's only Kiddush, not the other mitzvahs hayom. So that's the question. If all the mitzvahs hayom already set in, and the mitzvah, an Erev Yontif, and Makabel Tosefes Yontif, early on Shavuos, and the mitzvah of Simcha already set in, that she can observe Avelis during this man of Tosefes. She's already mechuyev in Simcha, then she has to begin observing the Shiva after Yontif is over. The Yontif doesn't cancel anything, because she had no right to observe Shiva on her Yontif. She was already Mekabel Yontif. But if one should assume that Masif and Mechol Al HaKodesh doesn't only apply with respect to Isa, Malach, and Kiddush, it means the whole works, everything is there. So then the mitzvah of Simcha already set in, and she has to observe the whole Shiva after. So this is really these are the two opinions in the Tosfos in the beginning of the last Perek Psachim and Perek Arbi Psachim. If a person is Makabel Shabbos early, and he says Kiddush early, and Kiddush B'makom Suda, has to wash immediately and to start the meal. So can he bench before the sun sets? Can he be Yotze the whole Suda Shabbos midbod Yom during this man of Tosefes? Or do you say no? Tosefes is good to say Kiddush. And ain't Kiddush Ela Malkum Suda, you have to start eating, but you have to have at least a kazayis or a kibetza, a yosem kibetza, 3 different opinions in Poskim. You have to save a little bit of challah for the end of the meal to make sure that after Tzeis HaKachavim shouldn't be yotze during Bein HaShmashos. You should save a little challah for the end to make sure that you had a Sudas Shabbos, a Sudas Yantif, Balayla. So that's 2 days in Tosfos. And the Mishnah Berurah quotes the Achrayim who recommend that one should be machmer if possible. You shouldn't just be yotze the whole Suda during those months. So that's a shayla b'negea that Rab Soloveitchik once gave a yortzeit drush on that topic. The Nitziv's granddaughter is the one who married Rab Chaim Soloveitchik, who was Rabbi Soloveitchik's grandfather. So the Nitziv was his great-great-grandfather. The Gemara in Moed Katan says that one does not observe Avelis on Yontif. Why not? because you have a conflict between Simchas Yontif and Avelis. It's a tie to the Sasri. You can't observe both. So which mitzvah wins? If you have two conflicting mitzvahs, you have a klal, essay, dechal, essay. Here there's no essay. Here this is an essay. This is an essay. How do you decide which of the two to fulfill? You can't observe both simultaneously. Simchas Yontif and Avelis are tied to the Sasri. So the Gemara says, Osi essay de Rabbim, v'dochi essay de Yochid. The mitzvah of Simchas Yontif is on all of Klal Yisrael. Avelis is Evel Yachad Asilach. Avelis is the members of the family, a small group of people. So the mitzvah of Simchas Yontif takes precedence over the mitzvah of Avelis. As Yasid the Rabbim, V'dochi Yasid the Yochid. So the Rishonim raise a question, Taisus on the Daf, and other Rishonim raise a question. Why did the Gemara give a simpler answer? As Yasid the Raisa, V'dochi Yasid the Rabbanan. All of Avelis is only the Rabbanan. Simchas Yontif is a pasuk and chumash. So if you have a conflict between a mitzvah deraisa and mitzvah derabanan, the simple common sense should dictate that the mitzvah deraisa should take precedence. Why does the Gemara give this other reason? The esed derabban takes precedence over esed diach. So this leads Taisus to believe that the whole mitzvah of Simchas Yontif is only midirabanan. Menatore, the Gemara seems to say, perhaps that's how Taisus read it. Bisman shebeis hamikdash kaim ein simcha ela b'bsar shlomim. You only fulfill simcha by eating b'sar karbonis. There's no b'sar karbonis, so you have yayin. But the real simcha deraisa is to eat b'sar karbonis. So b'zman they're both the rabbanan. The simchas yontiv is the rabbanan, and avelis the rabbanan. So they had to come up with a new answer. The other Rishonim disagree with Tosfos that simcha b'zman is a din deraisa. B'zman shebeis hamikdash hayikayam. The more correct way to fulfill simcha is by eating shalmei simcha b'sar karbonis. You fulfill simcha by buying new dress for your wife, buying jewelry, whatever for your wife, whatever. Shamin is simcha. Doesn't necessarily have to be dafke b'sar karbonis. So the other Rishon, the Chachmei Svarad, are all the Goinim with the Rif and the Rambam and the Ramban, all the Chachmei Svarad. They were of the opinion that simcha b'zman hazeh is their Raisa. So why didn't the Gemara say the din deraisa takes precedence over the din derabbanan? No, because they were of the opinion that Avelis Yom Rishon is their Raisa. The Gemara says Avelis is the Rabbanan, the last 6 days of Shiva. And the Shloshim and the Yud Beis Chodesh, that's the Rabbanan. But Avelis Yom Rishon is their Raisa. Where did they get that from? A difference between Avelis Yom Rishon and the rest, because there's a din of Aninus. The first day, there's a din of an Oinen, Lo Echalti B'Yonim Imenu. An Oinen is not allowed to eat Ma'aser Sheni. Kalvachayim an oinen is not allowed to eat karbonis, and an oinen is not allowed to be makru karbonis, unless the kain gadol is makru vaynin. But a kain hedyot is not allowed to be makru vaynin. So there's a din of aninus deraisa even after the kvura, not only up until the kvura, even after the kvura, the whole day aninus yom rishon is deraisa. So that's a form of avelus. The Balei HaTaisus hold no, that's unrelated. Avelus luchud and aninus luchud. That's the expression that the Rosh has in Ma'ikatan on this topic. So that's a fundamental machlek, a double machlek is the Rishonim, whether Avelis Yom Rishon is the Raisa, the Rabbanon, and the second Nekudas HaMachlekes is whether Simchas Yontif B'zman hazeh is the Raisa, the Rabbanon. And that Gemara Pesachim says that B'zman shebeis hamikdash hayikam, the only way to fulfill the mitzvah of Simchas Yontif is to have B'sar Shlomim, to have B'sar Karbonis. And B'zman hazeh, we have Ein Simcha L'B'yayin. So I think we mentioned the other day that the Mishnah Brura, the end of the 5th chelik in Mishnah Brura, quotes a machlekes achreinim. What does that mean? The meat is irrelevant. You only have to have yayin. So the Mishnah Brura thinks that Roi achreinim think like that you don't have to have fleishiks at all. Yeah, you should have fleishiks because, like on Shabbos there's no chiyuv simcha, but there's kibud v'yonik. So einik Shabbos you have taragalim ufutamim, v'larach kamaminim, whatever you do for einik Shabbos. But the simcha b'zman hazeh is really only yayin, and the basar is irrelevant. And then the minority opinion, and achrayim, that's how the Mishnah Berurah presents the minority opinion. Achrayim is no, the b'zman shebeis hamikdash hayikayim, all you needed was really b'sar shlamim. B'zman hazeh, because it's b'sar chulin, so the basar is not enough. You have to have in addition yayin as well. So the yayin, everyone agrees you have to have. Relaxes a person. This season we really ought to try to do something to relax a little bit. So you have a little yayin. You have to no mitzvah to get drunk. It's not adelo yada. A little bit of yayin, and then the minority opinion is that you should have basar as well. The Ger Rebbe before the Second World War, I think he was known as a Beis Yisrael. So he is quoted as having said that really the Simcha should be this when you learn Yeridea. So on the first page on Yeridea, they quote that if the Shochet in town is in Avelis in the middle of Shiva, it's really not right that he should shecht, because he's fatumult. He's not all there. He's not 100% there. So he may not do a good job. So we have a meaning that the shechet in the middle of Shiva shouldn't shecht. What if he's the only one who knows how to shecht behemoths? There's another shechet who can shecht oifus. But the oval who's in a Shiva now, he's the only one who knows how to shecht behemoths. And Yontiv is coming up. So is it necessary to have Bisar Behema for Simchas Yontiv? Can you fulfill Simchas Yontiv with Bisar Oif? So that's a machlek, is the first page in Yerideh, page Aleph on Aleph. The Gemaras begin with Daf Beis, and the Shulchan Aruch begins with Daf Aleph. So the first page in the machlek is the Yad Avram and the Yad Ephraim, the little letters on the bottom of the page. So there's a machlek Achrayim about that. So many are machmer that you have to have Davka Simcha b'fleish, not with chicken. On Shabbos, there's no chiyuv simcha, just keep it v'yanig. So if a person enjoys chicken, it's good enough. But on Yonta, because there's a chiyuv simcha, so that's why there's such an opinion. Dafke b'sar behema. The Ger Rebbe before the Second World War used to say that by a wedding, the suda is a suda simchas, and more correct is you should have flesh, not chicken. The Maramshik has a tshuva. Is it okay to have a chasana, a melechik chasana, or a melechik sheva brachas? He says no. And simcha ela b'basa v'yayin. Yayin, they all agree. At a wedding and in a sheva brachas, whoever doesn't drink wine is not yotzei the sudas simcha. You have to have a little bit of wine. Then the shaila is that you have to have flesh also. So the Mishnah Berurah quotes that the minority opinion and majority opinion is manazeh, you don't need basar, but the common practice is we do have basar. So the Ger Rebbe suggested you should at least, if you can't afford to have flesh for everybody, everyone's got to have chicken. At least have a minyan of people. 10 people should have flesh, and the rest should have chicken, because we assume and simcha lebasa v'yayin. The Gemara says that if a person had a
Rabbi, what if somebody doesn't enjoy meat? Let's say they're vegetarian.
So on Shabbos, it says in Shulchan Aruch that it's judged subjectively, whatever you enjoy. And it says if a person enjoys fasting better than eating, I haven't met those kind of people yet, one who enjoys fasting better than eating should fast on Shabbos, because Oneg Shabbos is determined subjectively. And Simcha and Yantiv, that's a question, that's what I was just about to discuss. Maybe Simcha is to be determined objectively. Maybe we don't judge it subjectively. Maybe you have to have basa v'yayin even if you're going to choke on it. So that's a suffix in the Ramah as a commentary on the Tur. That's called the Dark Moshe. So the Ramah raises that possibility. He raises the possibility in the following context. The Gemara says that if a person had a frightening dream and he wakes up in the morning, he's nervous about it, so he should dispel it from his mind. He should forget about it. But if he can't, if it bothers him, he wakes up and he's bothered, he's frightened. He had a dream that a dear friend of his or a dear relative died. He died, something very frightening. So instead of just dismissing it from his mind, he's nervous about it. Then the din says he's mechuyev to fast tainis chaloim. You have to fast. If you don't take it to heart, you're not mechuyev to fast. If you do take it to heart, then you have to fast. So the Gemara says you even have to fast tainis chaloim on Shabbos. So the question is, why is that? So the Darkei Moshe raises the question, is it because he would enjoy fasting better than eating? So Oneg Shabbos is determined subjectively. And if so, maybe on Yontif, maybe there's a Chiyuv Simcha, maybe there's no heter to fast the Tanis Chalaim on Yontif. Or maybe we should say it's not because of this is his Oneg. Maybe it's like a shtickle, something like Pikuach Nefesh. But a real Pikuach Nefesh it isn't to say that by fasting, literal, maybe he's Chalaim Mesech B'Shishin B'Nevuah, the Gemara says. So he had Echad B'Shishin B'Nevuah, that a dear friend is going to die, something terrible, some tragedy is going to occur. He's nervous. He says, you can get everybody to mute themselves. They're not listening. Okay. So maybe the pshat is that it's not really pikuach nefesh doiche Shabbos, that is not a pikuach nefesh, but it's something like it's chatei b'shul shetiske. If you fast on the same day, if you have a terrible chalem and you fast 2 days later, it's not as strong. The Gemara says also yom, if you fast on the same day, then there's a stronger chance that that will break this gzera ra. So if that's the head, it's something like chatei b'shul shetiske. It's not pikuach nefesh decha. It's not esed decha lo isese. When you have esed decha lo isese, the person doesn't have to ask for kapara later on. He doesn't have to do tshuva for anything. When you have pikuach nefesh, it's not aver lishma. He doesn't have to do tshuva for that. He's just not mechuyev. When you have pikuach nefesh deicha Shabbos, it's a mitzvah. But we have another concept. The Gemara says chatei b'shul shetiske. That's called aver lishma. So if you do an aver lishma, sometimes we allow you to do the ends justify the means. As we pointed out the other day, every legal system has a clause that sometimes the ends justify the means. Let's say if my wife is in labor at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to drive her to the hospital. So the police will allow me to go through the red light, and I'll call ahead to the other police to make sure that they let me go through the red light because my wife is in labor. So there the ends justify the means. Pikuach nefesh is decha kola terakula. So the ends justify the means. The question is which ends and which means. To steal money from a government program in order to support yeshiva, those ends do not justify those means. But sometimes the ends do justify the means. So that's called chatei b'shul shetiska. That's not the same as when you have pikuach nefesh is there as het gomer. Whether you say tchuya hutra, but when you do the aver, it's het gomer. It doesn't make a difference. When you say esed dechel say it's at the gomer, also like pikuach nefesh. But you say chatei b'shul shetiske, then you do need a kapar. So the Tosfos puts together two cases. Let's say a nazir is nikra chayte in a certain sense. A nazir is sinning a little bit, al shetzir atzma min hayayim, but he feels that he needs it because he sees haroya saita b'kilkula yazir atzma min hayayim in Parshas Naseh, next week's kriya. So it has the parsha of nazir right after the parsha of saita. So the Gemara says the reason why it's like that in the Chumash and the Mishnah is nazir follow saita because haroya saita b'kilkula yazir atzma min hayayim. Normally you should go the middle of the road. You shouldn't be extreme in one direction or the other. You shouldn't abstain from wine completely. You shouldn't get drunk. You should have a little bit of wine. It's not so bad. But if you live in a generation where there's so much preachers, and you think that much of the preachers is due to the fact that people are drinking and they're not fully in their right senses, so then we would recommend to become a little bit extreme and not to drink wine, to be mekabel net and naziris. But the nazir is nikra chayte al shetzir atzma marayan. The Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to enjoy all the pleasures of the world. The Yerushalmi says, the Mesilas Yesharim quotes, Mesilas Yesharim has a whole chapter on Aprecious. So he quotes the Yerushalmi that on the Yom Adin, Lachamei Esem Shana, when the Beis Shalmaila will judge us on all the mitzvahs and the averos that we did and we did do, so they will punish us on all the hanos of Adam Hazeh that we didn't enjoy. We're supposed to enjoy all hanos of Adam Hazeh. So the pasuk says in Chumash, the Nazir sometimes has to bring a carbon chatas, asher chata ala nefesh. So the pasuk in the pasuk asher chata ala nefesh, he was metamel ameis. If the Nazir was metamel ameis accidentally, or the ameis b'sheg, it doesn't make a difference, then he has to bring a chata. So pasuk asher chata ala nefesh, the nefesh of the nifta, the nefesh of the mace. But the Torah Shabbat Peh has an additional level of interpretation in that pasuk. Asher chata ala nefesh, his own nefesh. He needs a kapar because he did wrong. So if he did wrong, so we shouldn't have an institution of Naziris. So Tosfos explains, no, he stands to gain more than he's going to lose. It's a b'chin of chatei b'shul shetiske, but chatei b'shul shetiske, then you need kapara for doing the chet. So he has to bring a chatas on shetzir atzma min hayayim. So that's how Tosfos seems to have understood the Gemara. If you have a frightening dream on Friday night, you wake up Shabbos morning and you're nervous and you're petrified, the best is just dismiss it from your mind and you don't have to fast. But if the person can't dismiss it from his mind, is really shaken up by it, then he's mechuyev to fast even on Shabbos. And then he has to fast on Sunday. Tzarich l'meisah tainus l'tainisa. Has to fast on Sunday as a kapara for having fasted on Shabbos. So let him not fast on Shabbos. No, he has no brera. He has to fast on Shabbos because Yofe tainus l'chalom it's good if you fast Tainas Chalam on the same day that you had the Chalayim Ra. So he has no choice, he has to fast on Shabbat, but he doesn't really have a heter. It's not really Bikuach Nefesh, and it's not really Esed Dechal Sasi. It's Chatei B'Shvil Shetiske. The question why is Chatei B'Shvil Shetiske. So then whenever you have Chatei B'Shvil Shetiske, Aver L'Shma, that's called Aver L'Shma, then you need a kapor for having done the Aver. So again, so the Darkei Moshe is Mesupik. Atainas Chalom on Shabbos, you fast, and then you have to fast on Sunday. Al Shetzirat al Tzorach L'Meiseb Tainas L'Tainisa. So the Ramah is Mesupik and the Darkei Moshe. What about Atainas Chalom on Yantiv? Is the heter because Oineg is defined subjectively, and this person would enjoy fasting rather than eating today because of the frightening dream, then maybe on Yontiv, Simcha is defined objectively. Maybe you can't shettle that his Simcha today is to fast. No, Simcha is to have basa v'yain, even if you don't enjoy it. Or should we say, no, the heter to fast on Shabbos is Aver Lishma. So if it's Aver Lishma, it's along the lines of Pikuach Nefesh, but not really, because it's not B'derech HaTeva. Pashtus Pikuach Nefesh is if it's B'derech HaTeva. They worked out, the doctors worked out, if you take this medication, you get better. So that's Pikuach Nefesh. But to have a Zgula fasting, Yofet Tainis Lachalom, that's a Zgula Dika thing. So the Pashtus says that that's not called Pikuach Nefesh. There was a famous incident in Europe. Someone was deathly sick on Shabbos. So the Dayan in the village allowed them to go to the telegraph office to send a telegram to a tzaddik who lived in a different city. He should be mispalel for the chayla. You're allowed to be machal Shabbos to send a telegram to a tzaddik to be mispalel because it's bikuach nefesh. Bikuach nefesh is decha Shabbos. So most of the rabbanim held that he did wrong. They wanted to fire the dayan. So I don't think they fired him. And most of the rabbanim held he did wrong. That Pikuach Nefesh, the Derech Shabbos only Pikuach Nefesh, but Derech HaTeva. If you do something that's medically recognized as a refuah, but a Pikuach Nefesh, Derech Zgula, to send a telegram that a tzaddik should be mispala for the chayla. So that's questionable whether that's called Pikuach Nefesh. So Soloveitchik said that his grandfather Rab Chaim held that it was. His grandfather Rab Chaim held that it is called Pikuach Nefesh Derech Shabbos. There was some balabas. It was known as an unusual tzaddik. Rab Chaim held you're allowed to be Michal Shabbos to send a telegram to that balabas that he should be mispala for a chayla on Shabbos. But we usually assume that it's not so.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Nowadays, we're knowing to do Tainas Chalom if somebody has a frightening dream.
Yeah, if a person has a scary dream. Most people just dismiss it from their minds. I was very surprised. I had twice. People called me on the phone, very, very modern people, not yeshivish people at all. And they had a dream. What was the dream? Exactly what's described in the Gemara, that the teeth fell out. I don't remember any of my dreams, and I don't take anything. I don't remember any dreams. I don't remember any of my dreams, and I don't take anything to heart. But these modern people, they don't take so seriously the mitzvahs and the chumash. But the dream, they had exactly the dream that the Gemara described. They had a dream that their teeth were falling out, and they were frightened about it. So the Gemara said, "You got to fast tainas chalom. Even on Shabbos, you got to fast tainas chalom."
So what's the answer to his question? If someone's a vegetarian, does he have to eat meat on Yom Tov?
The Ramos sounds like he holds that because on Yom Tov there's a chiyuv simcha that's determined objectively. On Shabbos there's room to be mekel because there's no chiyuv simcha. It's only oinig. So oinig is determined subjectively. So if the person doesn't want to, he doesn't have to. But let's say Erev Pesach, Leil Pesach has to eat the korban Pesach whether you like it or not. Even if you're going to choke on the flesh, you have to eat the korban Pesach. So on Yom Tov also, you have to have the yayin. The basar is a machlokes achrayim, whether as much a base of migdusha yikayim. The Gemara says in simcha b'basar shlamim. You have to eat b'sar kochim, even if you're choking on it. But bisman hazeh, mistama, there's room to rely on the roiv achrayim. The Mishnah Berurah thinks that most of the achrayim think that you don't need basar bisman hazeh on Yom Tov. You just need yayin. Yeah. The Maramshik has a tshuva that a wedding in a Shever Brachas is a Suda Simcha, so it should be Basa B'yayin. Should be Basa B'yayin. It's not right to make milchig weddings and milchig Shever Brachas. It's not right.
how would you be allowed to choke on it? It would be considered pikuach nefesh. And just to add on to the pikuach nefesh, you could say that in 2020, psychologically, if you tell somebody they have to do something, it could go into almost pikuach nefesh with the whole psyche.
I'm kidding. I don't mean you have to choke on it. I mean, even if you don't enjoy it, they're not going to choke on it. Even if they don't enjoy it, they have a mitzvah to eat korban pesach. That's no machlokes about that. And on Yontif, the way it's usually assumed, you have to have basa the yayin. And if the person doesn't want to, let him just have the yayin. The yayin for sure you have to have. And the basa is the minority opinion hold you have to have basa the yayin. In the Chumash, it only says, yes.
What about by a bris? Is there any need to have basar by a bris, by a suda?
Yes. The Magen Avraham quotes the Shaloah, who had two rabbeim, and when there would be they always used to serve fleishiks by bris. But if it would be Erev Shabbos, Friday, so that was a machlekes between the two rabbeim of, I forgot their names, but the Shaloah quotes their names. So when there would be a bris on a Friday morning and they would serve fleishiks, so usually it's not right to eat a fleishik meal on Friday, because Kvod Shabbos is you should save the fleishik meal for Leil Shabbos. Shouldn't eat the fleishiks for stuff for lunch. But if you have a Sudas mitzvah, then you're allowed to. So that was a machlokes. So one of the rabbeim of the Shaloh held that it's only a chumrah that we have a fleishik meal by the bris. Mikra din, you don't need it. So therefore, it's on Erev Shabbos, you should give milchiks. And the other rabbi of the Shaloh held no, that the more correct is you should have fleishiks. And even if it's on Erev Shabbos, he would participate. Right. That was two practices. We mentioned that in the Chumash, it would appear that the mon didn't fall down on Shabbos, but it doesn't say about Yontif. It's very clear the mon didn't fall down on Yontif either. So we usually have two mitzvahs, we assume with the Rabbanan, two mitzvahs on Shabbos, Zecher Lamon, to reminisce about the miracle of the mon. One is that we have Lecha Mishnah. When we say Hamot, we have Lecha Mishnah because a double portion of man fell down on there. And then we have three sudas on Shabbos. Yom appears three times in the same pasuk. Yichlu hayom, Shabbos hayom, Hashem hayom lo semtzuhu basoda. So the Chacham pointed out the word hayom appears three times. So you should have three sudas: one suda Leil Shabbos, one suda Shabbos morning, and one suda Shabbos Shudas in the afternoon. On Yontif, we carry over the Lecha Mishnah. We all have Lecha Mishnah on Yontif, just like on Shabbos. So some Rishonim hold, the Rambam seems to hold the Farish, that on Yontif we carry over Shabbos Shudas as well. And Shulchan the accepted opinion is that on Yontif you don't have to have three Sudas. Even though the mon didn't fall down, it should be exactly the same as Shabbos. So the Bir Agra gives you the Makar is Yerushalmi and Maseches Ma'aser Sheni, but it's pretty clear that there's no need to have three Sudas on Yontif. So that's our practice. It's a little bit problematic, contradictory. How can we makbet on Lech Mishnah and we don't have Shalosh Shudas on Yontif? But that's the common practice. That's the way it says in Shulchan Aruch. There was an obligation to be, the men were obligated to be Ola Regel, to visit the Azara, now to go to Mikvah on Erev Yontif, to be able to enter the Azara on Yontif. And they were obligated to bring Shalosh Mitzvahs, they were obligated to bring Oilas Riyah, Shalmei Chagiga, and Shalmei Simcha. The Oilas Riyah is a big issue. Can you be Yotzei with Oilas Ha'oif, or do you have to bring Oilas Behema? So the Gemara, the way we have it in the Bible is black and white, the Farish has to be Oilas Behema. You're not Yotzei with an Oilas Ha'oif. The Rambam has some other gears or different Makar or something. The Rambam writes beferish that you can bring Oilas Ha'oif. And the Meiri always has like the Rambam. The Meiri in Provence, they followed everything from the Rambam. Like in Morocco also, I think they follow everything from the Rambam. So the Meiri also quotes like that. So the Rav Velvel Soloveitchik in the Sefer on the Rambam quotes from the Mabit. Mabit was a contemporary of Yosef Karo. They were Bezin together in Tzfat in the 1500s. So the Mabit wrote a Sefer on the Rambam that's called Kirya Sefer. It wasn't that so popular. For many years, it wasn't reprinted, but now they reprinted it again. It's not as good as the Kesef Mishnah. Kesef Mishnah on the side of the Rambam always gives you all the Mabit. Mabit gives you once in a while. So the Mabit has a comment, according to the Rambam, that one can fulfill a mitzvah of Olos Riyah, bring Olos Ha'if, there's going to be a saving of $1,000, a fortune of money. It's much less expensive. It has to be 2 Olos Ha'if. You can't be able to with one. The Rav explains why, because the halacha says when you bring a Olos Nedava, you can volunteer. What do I do to start the recording again? They just said the recording stopped. Can somebody start the recording again? I don't know. Okay. I'm not in charge of that.
Maybe by me, it says it's recording.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the Rav Soloveitchik explains the pasuk in the beginning of Chumash Vayikra says you can bring 1 Olos Ha'if, but that's considered an incomplete korban. So if it's an Olos Nedava, it's voluntary, then you can bring an incomplete korban. The Gemara says whenever you're obligated to bring an Olah and you want to bring Olos Ha'if, it has to be 2. You have to have a kan. Usually a kan is a Chatas Ha'if and an Olos Ha'if, but here there's no room for a Chatas. So here they both have to be Olos Ha'if. So that's an interesting chiddush from the Mabit. On Yom Tov, the Gemara says that we have an obligation to recite Hallel. We spoke the other day, Machlokes Rishonim, well, Hallel on Yom Tov is the Raisa, the Rabbanan. So Tosfos assumes that Davar Pasha, the Hallel on Yom Tov is the Rabbanan. And the Gemara says that women are not mechuyev to recite Hallel on Yom Tov. And if the husband does know how to read Hebrew, and the wife is going to say the Hallel to enable the husband to be Yotzei, the husband has to say word for word after her. She can't be moitzi him with shemer kohanim because she's not mechuyev b'davar. V'shein mechuyev b'davar, and emotzi osarabim midei chayvos. So Tosfos proves from that Gemara that women are not mechuyev in Hallel on Yom Tov, and Tosfos assumes that Davar Pasha, the Hallel on Yom Tov is not their Raisa. There's not passing a chumash; it's only the Rabbanan. So you see that the rule that women are part of mitzvah says as man grama doesn't only apply to mitzvahs the Raisa, it applies to mitzvahs the Rabbanan as well. And with respect to Arba Kaisis, and with respect to Heseba and Pesach night, and with respect to Mikra Megillah, and the Hadlakas Neves Chanukah, the Gemara says women are mechuyev, but for a side reason. Mikra then women should have been potter, because it's even though it's only the Rabbana, but it says man grama. So we say, despite the fact that there should have been potter, since Afen Hay B'Yas Hanes said a chayiv. So that's Tosfos' presentation. This is in disagreement with Rashi. It's Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos and Brochas and Avchaf and Beis. So Rashi crossed out a girsa in the Gemara. He said the girsa was incorrect because there is no such din that Zman Grama, women are potter on the Rabbanans. That din on the rule only applies to mitzvahs derais. And mitzvahs derabbanan, there is no rule. It depends how the Chachamim instituted the din. But the rule that women are potter for Zman Grama doesn't apply to mitzvahs derabbanan. So how did Rashi deal with this Gemara that women are potter from Halal on Yom Tov? So Rav Soloveitchik points out maybe Rashi holds like the Ramban in the Sefer HaMitzvahs. Ramban gave a whole presentation why one can understand that the Halal on Yom Tov is deraisa. The Kriyas HaTorah on Sukkos, Medina de Gemara, you have to learn from Parshas Pinchas. You have to learn the Parshas HaMasofim. Our practice is that not only on Sukkot, even on Pesach and on Shavuos and on Rosh Hashanah, we take out a second Sefer Torah, and after we give the 5 aliyahs for Yom Tov, then we lay in the second Sefer Torah from Pinchas, the Karbanos HaMasofim. So this is not Medina de Gemara, this is a takana that was introduced, a minig that was introduced in the days of the Goyim. And it's really a Haisafa. You really give 5 aliyahs in the Kriya. Then you give a Haisafa, you give a 6th aliyah. There's a machlokes in the Rishonim where they're allowed to make a Haisafa on Yom Tov. So we follow, our minhag, we usually don't make Haisafas on Yom Tov, but one Haisafa we always make. We give 5 aliyahs, then we give the maftir. That's already a Haisafa. So that's a question. This Yom Tov, some of the shuls they're going to have, the Balkar is going to get all the 5 aliyahs because they're afraid if they'll have Gaboim next to the Bima and you'll have an Oila Lator next to the Balkari, someone may contaminate the other person with this disease. So on some of the shows, they're going to have a Balkari is going to lane all the 5 aliyahs. So that's the question. Is it right that we should make a Hisofa to give him 6 aliyahs? We gave him all 5 aliyahs. Yeah, what do you have to make a 6th aliyah? Maybe we should leave out the Minik HaGoyim. Maybe we should only give 5 aliyahs. And we won't blame from the second Sefer Torah. It's not B'dina the Gemara. To give the Balkore 6 aliyahs. Maybe that's a question. Maybe since it's printed in the Matzah, it's printed in the Siddur. So Shulchan Aruch says you can't give a psak that's going to be Tamu al Rabbim. The rabbi can't give a psak that the people will think that he's crazy. So maybe the people think that he's a reformed rabbi or something. They may not understand. So maybe you should. Maybe you should insist that the Balkari should get 5 aliyahs, all the 5 aliyahs, with the Hisofa also. So the rabbis will have to decide about that. There is an interesting comment made by the Maharami Prague in his commentary on Rashi al Torah in the Sefer Gur Aryeh. He poses the question, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu offered the Torah to the Jewish people, and they said Nasav and Ishma, they accepted it. So why did he have to force the Torah upon them? Why was Kaf Aleim Hakik? Because they accepted it beratzon. Why was it necessary to force the Torah on that? So different suggestions have been given. So Maharami Prague gives a very interesting suggestion that people shouldn't think that the obligation to observe mitzvahs is because we made a personal commitment. We pledged and we committed ourselves and we obligated. So we're obligated to like tefillin because of our personal commitment. So the Rebbeinu Shalom said, no, you're obligated because I want you. I'm commanding you to do the mitzvahs, not because you want to. The Rebbeinu Shalom wasn't interested in giving the Torah to a nation if they're not interested in fulfilling the mitzvahs, because it's just not going to work. So he asked, are you interested? Once they said yes, he said, okay, now that you expressed an interest, I'm commanding you, I'm forcing the Torah upon you. Whether you like it or not, we should have the attitude that we're doing the mitzvahs because it's God's wish. He commanded us, he instructed us, you have to do the mitzvahs, not because of our personal commitment. There used to be a certain professor in YU, in the college, he was not a Rebbe at all. He used to say that the obligation to keep the mitzvahs, the most important mitzvah in the Torah is Motzos Asacha Tishmar. A person pledges, takes a neder to do something, a shvuah to do something, so he has to do it. So that's why we're obligated to observe all the mitzvahs, because we all pledged. I wasn't there at Har Sinai, so when every child becomes bar mitzvah, he pledges to observe all the mitzvahs. So that's why if the minig amakim is that people violate some of the Isurim, we don't observe all the mitzvahs. We don't observe Shabbos 100%. So that's why the din is that minig oika halacha, because when you became bar mitzvah, you only pledged to observe the mitzvahs the way your parents observed. Your parents didn't observe all the mitzvahs. So you never pledged to observe those mitzvahs that your parents observed. So that's hogwash. That's not true. The obligation to observe mitzvahs is not because we committed ourselves, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mechayev us. He wouldn't have given us the Torah if he would have said we're not interested. It just wouldn't fly, wouldn't work. But once we expressed an interest, then he was mechayev us. The obligation to observe is not because of it's not a his chayvus midas. It's a chiv that HaKadosh Baruch Hu imposes upon us. There's a beautiful medrash that comments on the pasuk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe Rabbeinu the luchas.
I don't know. I'm listening. Tell him to wait 5 minutes. Don't want to let him go.
Okay.
So the Medrash has a comment on that phrase. Kechaloso ledaber ito. It's missing a vav. It reads kechalosoi, like a kala. That the Torah should be like a kala, just like a kala. The chassan is chalashing. The kala looks so good. She's so beautiful, and she's chabiba al baila liyod. So too, a person should only tell over Torah to listeners if they're chalashing to hear the divrei Torah. If it's chaviv, if the divrei Torah chavivim al shomayim. If the Torah is not so chaviv on the listeners, then you should refrain from telling. You shouldn't say over. So this is Yodua. The Rav Elva Soloveitchik was an old man. He had medical conditions. He used to take long walks every day for his health. So he used to always walk with someone else. So Rabbi Goldvich Zechan Levracha from Kerem Yavne used to have the Chazaka to walk with him, and he used to tell him his whole biography from his childhood, and he told him everything. And when Rabbi Lezer Shach would walk with him, he would tell him what would divrei Torah. So Rabbi Goldvich asked Rabbi Elva once, how come you never tell me any divrei Torah? Why you only tell Rabbi Lezer Shach? So he said, when I tell the Torah to blaze Hashach, he jumps out of his skin. He's so excited. He enjoys it so much. And the Medrash says on that pasuk in Chumash, Kechaloso, you're only allowed to say the Torah to someone who that it's Chavivim Aleim Yod. Otherwise, one should refrain from saying the Torah. Many have the practice to learn Mishnayos Bikurim on Leil Shavuos. It's a beautiful practice. The mitzvah Bikurim, I'll say a few words about Bikurim, not too much. Mitzvah Bikurim only applies in Eretz Yisrael, but Tosfos and Bava Basra Daf Pei Aleph and Aleph has a machlokes whether we should really consider it a mitzvah hakliyah ba'aretz. The mitzvah hakliyah ba'aretz, Tosfos Bikurim only applies in Eretz Yisrael, but the Gemara says Reishis Bikuri ad mascha prat l'chutz l'Aretz. So Tosfos asks, why do you need another pasuk? You have the klal from other psukim that the agricultural mitzvahs only apply in Eretz Yisrael. So Tosfos has two answers. One suggestion is that Bikurim is not really a mitzvah tli ba'aretz, because kol man yenafish the Bikurim there is no isa tevel. The only time it's a mitzvah that depends on kedusha is kedusha means limitations and restrictions. Let's say kedusha Shabbos. A person knows that Shabbos you dress up and you eat delicious meals and you go to shul, but he never heard of any of the malachas. So that's considered as if he didn't know Shabbos at all. Knowing Shabbos means you know that there's a kedusha Shabbos, that there is isur malacha or an isur tchumen, or some isur. Shvi says behemto. But if you only know Shabbos and mitzvahs, you don't know any isurim at all. It means that you didn't know anything about the kedusha sayom of Shabbos. That's how the Ramban explains on the Gemara in Shabbos. So the same Tosfos has one opinion, two opinions, whether really Bikurim is from the mitzvahs hakliyas ba'aretz or no. Maybe it's a din, it only applies in Eretz, but it's not really a mitzvah hakliyas ba'aretz. So Rav Soloveitchik used to say over every so often, and Rav Menachem Zemba has this. And Menachem Zemba was a great Polish Goyen who was killed by Nazis in the Warsaw Ghetto. So he had a friend of his who put out the Sifrei Zuta. He was a businessman. Menachem Zemba was a businessman. His father-in-law had a hardware store, and the father-in-law supported him to sit and learn. The father-in-law passed away, so he had to run a hardware store. But he knew how to learn better than most Rabbanim put together. He was unbelievable blood going. He knew everything. All the Bablis, Rishalmis, every Or Samech, every Ragat Sheva, he knew everything. It was a great going. So this friend of his, who was also a businessman by the name of Yoskovich, was putting out the Sifrei Zuta. That's a different Sifrei in the basement Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi Shmuel. We have the Sifrei, regular Sifrei, that's been some Sifrei is what, Rabbi Shimon, I think, Bishitas Rabbi Akiva. And the Sifrei Zuta is basement Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi Shmuel. It's in an Aramaic Hebrew. Instead of being in a regular Hebrew, it's Aramaic Hebrew. It's not exactly the same Hebrew as the regular Sifrei. So the Sifrei Zuta starts out by listing off the Esek Kedushas in Eretz Yisrael. That appears in the Mishnah in the first parak of Maseches Kelim, but there is slight shinuyim between the two versions, as it appears in the Sifrei Zuta in the beginning of Parshas Naso, by Shuluch Tmei Men Amachnet, list of all the Esek Kedushas, and the version that appears in Parak Aleph and Mishnayos Kelim. So one of the variations is when the Mishnah says Eretz Yisrael has Kedusha as opposed to Chutz La'aretz, Shemivim Mimenu Ha'omer Ashtei Alechem B'Habikurim. So the Mishnah has the word Bikurim, and the Vilna Gaon crosses it out, and the Sifrei Zuta doesn't have it. So what's the issue? Whether Bikurim belongs or doesn't belong? Bikurim only applies in Eretz Yisrael. Why shouldn't the Mishnah have Eretz Yisrael has Kedusha as opposed to Chutz La'aretz, that you bring Bikurim? Why not? So that's what the Rab Soloveitchik used to be fond of saying. The Zohar and Menachem Zemba has it in his Kuntras called the Oitzer HaSifrei. So they explain, the Mishnah says, Eretz Yisrael, the Mishnah means to say there are 10 levels of Kedushas HaMikdash. That Eretz Yisrael has Kedushas HaOretz, that we know. And because Eretz Yisrael has Kedushas HaOretz, you have to give Trumas HaMaisos, to observe Shemitah V'Yovel, like a Shik. None of this is mentioned in the Mishnah in the Sifrei Zuta when you speak about Eretz Yisrael has Kedusha. Because the Mishnah is talking about Eretz Yisrael has a lower level of Kedusha from Kedushas HaMikdash. There are 10 levels of Kedushas HaMikdash. Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Heichal, Bein Hulam Alam Mizbeach, the Azara, the Ezras Nashim, the rest of Harabayis, the 10 levels of Kedushas Beis HaMikdash. The lowest level of Kedushas Beis HaMikdash is all of Eretz Yisrael. So to say Eretz has kedusha that you chayv and trumas and ma'aser shmita v'yovel, doesn't indicate that it has a lower level of kedushas hamigdosh. It has a level of kedushas haaretz, but the Mishnah is trying to say it has kedushas hamigdosh. But that's why the Mishnah only mentions shemivim imenu ha'omer u'shtei halechem. Should it say bikurim? So that depends. If bikurim is a mitzvah tlei baretz, then it shouldn't be mentioned in this Mishnah because they're trying to quote the Raya that all the Eretz has a lower level of kedushas hamigdosh, not that it has kedushas haaretz. But if you hold that bikurim is restricted only to Eretz Yisrael, not because it's a mitzvah tlei baretz, a special din. So maybe it's taka because all the Eretz has a lower level of kedushas hamigdosh. The famous Mishnah, will close with this, the famous Mishnah in Bikurim says that a ger who converted is obligated to observe all the mitzvahs of Torah, and he's obligated to bring Bikurim if he has a farm, but Nevim ve'enam Kurim, he has an obligation to bring Bikurim, but he cannot say Arami Avidavi, because you have to say, Baruch es Adam shenishbata l'abasena l'asas lanu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu swore to our ancestors that he would give them Eretz Yisrael, and he gave it to us. The ger is not a biological descendant of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, so it's not true. And he can't say half of the Arami Avidavi. He can't leave out that pasuk. Arami Avidavi has to be recited kichsavai. It's either you recite the whole parsha, you don't recite at all. So the Mishnah says the ger is maybe the enakari, as the mitzvah to bring bikurim if he owns a farm in Eretz Yisrael, but he cannot fulfill the mitzvah of mikra bikurim because he cannot say honestly, Adam shenishbata l'abasenu l'asas lanu. And the Rambam paskins like the Tana in the Yerushalmi and the Bryce in the Yerushalmi, Rabbi Yehuda, who disagrees. No, that since Avram Avinu's name was changed from Avram to Abraham, Avhamon Goim Nisaticha, that means that Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov also are considered others, not only biological parents of all of their descendants, they're considered the founders of the Jewish religion. In that sense, they're others. So even the ger is maybe bikari. He can say, the ger is maybe bikari. The Mishnah said the same thing when the ger lights Chanukah candles. He said, can't say, it's not labasein. He's not a biological descendant. And Rabbi Yehuda in Yerushalmi Paskin is not so. The Tana Rabbi Yehuda says, and the Rambam Paskin is like that. The Shulchan Aruch Paskin is like the Rambam. That the ger does say, nisim labasein. And the same thing when the ger daven Shemona Esrei, can he say Elokeinu v'Elokei Aviseinu, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov? Does he have to say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avos Yisrael? So the Mishnah says the ger cannot say Elokeinu v'Elokei Aviseinu. He's not a biological descendant. And Shulchan Aruch paskins like the Rambam, or paskins like the Tana and the Yerushalmi, that the ger can't say because not only Avram was Avram Goim, Yitzchak and Yaakov, all three are considered the fathers, the founders of the Jewish religion. So that's what we paskin in Shulchan Aruch. In Taisus and Baba Basra, Daf Payal, the same daf, where they talk about the Bikurim. So Taisus has a machlok, it's the Ri and the Rabbinatam, whether we should pass like the Mishnah or paskin like the Tana and the Yerushalmi. And the accepted psak is like the Rambam and the Tana and the Yerushalmi, that the ger is maybe Bikuri, and he can refer to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov as Abu Sain. I wish everybody a good Yontif.
But on Chanukah, it's the Avosenu, it's not Avram Yaakov. It's the Maccabim. It's not.
It's a very good question. What does it have to do with Avram? That's a very good question. I don't know the answer. That's a very good question. Good. I'm supposed to be giving shir at 1:30 to the alumni on Aseres Hadibros. So whoever wants to can become an honorary alumnus and tune in.
Have a good Yontif.
Was a Soloveitchik matir?
What did he say about Rav Soloveitchik?
Was Rav Soloveitchik matir to put electricity lights on and off on Yontif?
In the early years, I think he not off to turn on lights. He followed that opinion that it's not called Moled Esh Michodesh. But then I think later in his life he changed his practice.
And did he make any difference between fluorescent lights and regular lights?
Don't know. Not familiar.
Thank you very much.
Good Yontif, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.